in Los Angeles. Pregame jumps off at 4:30 following the Cattles and Ramie show. In Atlanta, the Falcons have gave in on the Marcus Mariota project after going 5-8. The team will be making a change to their rookie, Desmond Ridder. The Falcons have a bye this week, so Ridder will get his first start next week against the Saints in Week 15. In college football, one day before his team slides across the white lines to take on Incarnate Word in the FCS quarterfinals, Sac State Troy Taylor, according to ESPN, is a finalist for the head coaching position at Stanford. The school has reportedly wrapped up the interviews and plans to make a decision in the next few days. Former Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett is also among the finalists for the position. And finally, WNBA star and now former Russian prisoner Brittany Griner from a Russian federal prison. Griner, who spent almost 10 months detained for having less than a gram of cannabis oil in their luggage when entering the country, was seen boarding a plane and is reportedly en route to the U.S. as we speak. Those are your Sac Sports 1140 headlines. I'm Jay Johnson. Keep it locked right here because the Cattles and Ramie show is on the way. Today, the fellas have a packed jam show with appearances by Kings assistant coach Jordy Fernandez and the Athletics' Jeff Howe. All of that kicks off right now.
What's happening? A good Thursday to all of you. Thanks for joining us as always. It is much appreciated. We have a lot to get to. As JJ just mentioned, Jordy Fernandez joins us at 4 o'clock. Jeff Howe joins us at 4:13. And later on this hour, don't forget you fantasy football owners, as we're pretty much in playoff time right now, Casey Joyner. Casey Joyner will join us in about 40 minutes.
You make the playoffs?
Yes.
Or in position to make the playoffs?
Yes, but it's all going downhill. You want to talk about injuries? I could spend the entire segment telling you about the injuries I've had on my football team, including Lamar Jackson last weekend. So,
ouch.
Speaking of injuries,
Mahomes
Ramie,
has been fine for me all year.
I'm sure he has been. Speaking of injuries,
better.
De'Aaron Fox. Look, the last 3-4 weeks, Foxy has not looked the same. Right? We've talked about it a lot on this show. So he doesn't look right. He couldn't find the fifth gear. I've been talking about that for a couple of weeks. And then we had Sunday. And Sunday gave me some hope. Maybe it was false hope. But I thought, watching that game against Chicago on Sunday, that was the first time in a few weeks, and I mentioned this on Monday's show, that was the first time in a few weeks that I actually thought Fox had a little bit of that burst. He had a little bit of that juice working for him. And then we got to last night. And last night, every single shot that he took beyond 5 feet was short. I mean, some of these attempts, he was barely grazing the rim. And I tweeted last night at Nick C Radio. You can follow Ramie at Ramie is tweeting, R-A-M-I-E. Ramie is tweeting. I tweeted last night, it looks like Fox has no legs. Like his jump shot is dead. He's got absolutely nothing to this jump shot tonight from 3, from mid-range. He just did not look like a guy who had legs. Here was Domantas Sabonis about his teammate after the loss in Milwaukee.
He's taking good shots, they're open shots, they're rhythm shots, they're his shots that he's been taking, we just got to keep getting him good looks, he's putting in the work after practice, getting more shots and stuff, and I'm positive next game he'll shoot well.
All right, so we have that a little bit as a background, and then I did not realize this until I was listening to Katie last night during the broadcast. And, there was this mention of like a back and forth between De'Aaron's wife, Rasay, and some Kings fans on social media. Mm-hmm. And so Chris Verlade dug into this and found the tweet. This happened last week. It was December 2nd. So it happened 6 days ago, obviously before the Bulls game where it looked like De'Aaron had some juice back in the body. And this was the exchange. So a fan, Kevin Burgoon, tweeted after Fox had said he'd been dealing with a bug and soreness. Remember that? He was speaking to the media, and he finally came out and said, look, I'm getting through a bug, and I've had some soreness. Burgoon tweeted out, hope he feels better, but definitely funny timing after he hasn't been playing that well. Just like he sat out 2.5 weeks last year, and in parentheses, what was wrong, ? and magically got better once Halliburton was moved. And then the old thinking man emoji with the little, finger to the chin.
Sure.
Rasay responded to that. And she tweeted, his ankle was hurt last year, weirdo. Weirdo. The same one where he was grade whatever and came back way earlier than expected. And how about maybe he wasn't playing well because he was playing through injury on top of sickness instead of sitting out like I thought he should have. So De'Aaron's wife comes out and protects him and defends him and says, wait a minute, last year he had an ankle issue. This year he's been playing through an injury on top of being sick. I thought he should have sat out. He did not want to sit out. The first thing I'll say about this, because we have finally had the mystery solved thanks to Jason Anderson, Ramie, of the Sacramento Bee, which we'll get to in a minute, Anderson's report earlier today. But the first thing I would say is, and I tweeted this earlier, if you are a fan or even a media, pundit or whatever you want to call yourself, content creator,
Talking head.
If you complain and you criticize players for not playing through injury, you cannot then criticize a guy not playing great while he plays through injury. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, you got a little bit of an ankle situation there, buddy. You can't fight through it. And then the guy's not 100% and he doesn't give you what he would give you at 100%. And then you come back and go, I can't believe you're not playing as well as you were playing a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Well, he's playing through the injury like you want him to. We can't allow that to happen. We can't allow people to have it both ways.
And my whole stance when it comes to injuries, Nick, is very simple. I don't have an opinion on them. You know why? Because I'm not a doctor. Okay?
Right.
You know what I mean? I know that coaches will push guys to play sometimes if it's an especially important time of the season or especially important games. I know coaches most of the time have to rein guys in and pull guys back because their competitive nature is to try to play through games. I don't have the medical expertise, Nick, to know what's the risk of playing through something. What's the benefit of a guy resting?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I kind of just trust, and I shouldn't all the time because there are some coaches that push guys too hard. You heard Raheem Mostert talking about his time in San Francisco. I don't know if his account is necessarily exactly true, but that's how he felt about the way that his injury situation was handled in San Francisco. But for the most part, I just trust that these coaches are taking what these doctors are telling them, the risk of play, the benefit of rest, and putting that into the calculator along with the importance of a game and deciding if a guy should be playing or not. And I sort of stay out of it because I don't know the inside details. And even if I did, I'm not a doctor.
Right. And we've been discussing this situation with Fox, again, for the last month, really, trying to figure out what's wrong. And we've all been throwing darts at the wall to see if something, can stick and we can hit a number. And Jason Anderson, our friend from the Sacramento Bee, actually caught up with Fox last night after the game, and Fox finally revealed what's been bothering him. So Fox said that he's been playing through a lingering injury that has caused pain and discomfort for more than a month. He says that it's in his foot. He suffered a bruise to his foot, which an MRI showed. He said he sustained the injury against Orlando. So all the way back a month ago on November 5th, Fox told Anderson, quote, it's been hurting for a while since Orlando actually. Asked how much the foot is bothering him, Fox said a lot. Now, Fox told Anderson last night he did not expect to be sidelined in the game tomorrow against the Cavs. I can tell you that the injury report came out today, and Fox is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow's game. So it does seem like there's at least a discussion happening here whether or not he should sit. Ramie, I think it's time to sit him down for a couple games, get him right. Do you think it's time to sit him?
If that'll get him right, then yeah, then do it. I think. But the thing is here, Nick, and Mike Brown was just talking about this last week. They don't have the luxury or the benefit of playing it safe or slow playing guys when they have injuries. Like I was just saying, you have to weigh the risk of playing through something
right
versus the benefit of rest. And then how important are the games? And Mike Brown essentially said last week, when people were asking him about the minutes and back-to-back games, he said, we don't have the luxury to rest. We don't have the luxury of load management because it's going to be tightly packed and everybody's going to be close in the Western Conference.
Right.
We're going to need every win we have that we can get in the standings when it's time to tally up the final record. So I do think that, on some level, every game is important here. And if there isn't much benefit to be had with rest, which can be the case with some injuries, then let him play through it. But also be fair to the guy while he's playing through it, and don't come down on him because, he's not the guy who looked like the MVP of the NBA for the first 3-4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, look, most players want to play. And I know some fans think that some players bag out. And sure, some players bag out. You have some of those guys. Just like in every walk of life, you have somebody who just doesn't feel like going to work consistently, and they call in sick every couple of weeks, right?
I just called in sick last week. Are you saying something, bro?
It sounds like you feel a little bit of guilt out of that. But like when you're looking at this team, right? Sit him to me. I thought last night was the time to sit back and say, all right, we probably have to err on the side of caution. He wants to continue to play. He was diving on the floor last night, which says a lot about Fox and how much he cares. But if I'm the coaching staff, he's not necessarily helping you a ton right now. 5 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He gave you 15 points, and he played in spurts last night. It certainly seemed like for the first time that I can remember during this last month that they were really managing his minutes. He came out with like 7 minutes left in the first quarter. Then he played like a quick spurt of a couple of minutes, like from time. It just seemed like they were managing his minutes more last night than they had before, which tells me that they know that it's not feeling great. And he did not look great. And so I would say, hey man, look, I understand that it's going to be a tight race. I understand what the goal is and what the mission is here in Sacramento. We all want to get to the playoffs, but maybe discretion is the better part of valor on this one, and take a couple of games and relax. And for people saying, well, Nick, it can't get worse, I wonder, can it get better? Or are you just begging for this thing to linger longer and longer by having him go out there and play? So
I would assume, given the fact that he's playing through it, and like I said, I will trust medical professionals and coaches to not be irresponsible and reckless with the guy's health. I would assume the fact he's playing through it indicates that there isn't much risk for further injury in continuing to play, right?
Yeah, as I said, it can't get worse, fine. But is it going to get better? Are you just keeping it at a level?
Right.
Like, are you going to be at this same level for the next 3 weeks because you didn't take 2 games? So I would sit him. Want your thoughts? Is it time for De'Aaron to sit down for a couple of games and rest that foot? 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Also, don't forget youtube.com, Sacktown Sports 1140. Like the YouTube channel. We will certainly appreciate that. We'll get your reaction on Foxy. Also, should you be mad about the Bucks beam last night? We'll be back in 90 seconds. Do me a favor. Check out Prestige for versatile grilling for every delicious occasion. Nick Cattle saying start your holidays right this Christmas season with the amazing Napoleon Prestige line of outdoor cookers from California Backyard. Stainless steel Pro Series gas grill is what I've got. It's turned me into a pro. And this coming Christmas, just think outside the box and cook your entire Christmas meal on a Napoleon gas grill. Napoleon, the grills are built to last. Premium steel boasts quality. Check out Napoleon Grills today at any of the 4 nearby California Backyard locations. Always the best in backyard living. See California Backyard's huge selection of Napoleon grills and accessories today. You can check them out, too, at Napoleon.com.
It's the new spot for local sports talk in the afternoon. Cattles and Ramie. Sacktown Sports 1140.
Again, I want to make sure I clarify this. Because Ryan in Sacktown says, I assume the Kings medical staff has deemed whatever the presumptive injury is won't get worse if he plays. And that's what Ramie said last segment. And I would agree with that. I would imagine that the team doctors have told Fox and the coaching staff, look, if he continues to play, it won't get any worse. But my question is he allowing it to get better? You know, if you've got an aching foot and you just keep playing through it and playing through it and playing through it, is it going to miraculously just get better when you wake up in the morning one day? I also wonder, you know, again, De'Aaron told Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee that this is more of a pain tolerance management kind of issue. It would scream to me that, you know, some days he's just not going to feel good. Other days he might feel a little bit better. And I think that's why we saw him against Chicago on Sunday. He had a little bit, and it's kind of crazy because it was after, you know, it's the second game of a back-to-back, and that was as active and, you know, as much burst as he had shown in weeks. And I thought he was turning the corner. And then we had last night where every shot was short and he looked very uncomfortable. And it certainly seemed to me like the coaching staff changed his minutes around to play him in bursts rather than like super long stretches.
And I don't think we should discount that bug that he said he had last week either, Nick. I told you I felt like I was good enough to come back to work Thursday. You told me to take another day, and I came back Friday. But I told you on Tuesday, I was like, this is the first day I've felt normal.
Yeah.
Like I have a full appetite, like I have full energy. And I'm not an NBA player, but you know, my workouts are
You're not?
My workouts are intense, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they are intense.
I'm dripping wet,
Exactly.
butt naked.
Every time. And I was struggling to get through and strangely enough, I cut the toenail on my big toe on my left foot too short. And that's been bothering me the last couple of days too. Me and De'Aaron Fox are basically the same guy right now.
Did you see what Milwaukee did last night after the win? I think Foxy needs to sit for a couple of games. Sit him and see if it gets better. Sit him a game or two. Look,
you were right to just move on.
Thank you. You have after what you just did to yourself and to us. Like you've got enough depth, right? Like we talked about this when we were discussing the most important player on the team, and we all agreed that it was Domas. You have the depth to deal with Fox sitting out. It's not what you want.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at last night's game and you say, man, you don't have any legs because obviously your foot is really bothering you. It is limiting your ability to score. It's limiting your ability to get downhill consistently, which is limiting other guys' opportunities to make some open shots. It's changing our offense at times. Let's take a couple of days. They've got to play like 4 games in 6 days on this road trip.
Yeah,
like this is the time, man.
As well.
Like you've got Monk, Davion. You know, I know TD's questionable for tomorrow as well, but you've got enough guards to kind of mix it up and be able to survive without De'Aaron for a couple of games.
You'd think with 4 games in 6 days, unless he's on the uptick in terms of his health and close to being 100% while playing through it, you'd think that there's a day off somewhere in this stretch for him.
I would hope. I would certainly hope. All right. So before we get to some silver linings, because Ramie has some silver linings from last night's game, even though I told everybody we are done with moral victories, Ramie will give you a couple of silver linings from the game last night. But what really stood out to Ramie was the Bucks beam. So the Bucks, obviously, we know what happened. They beat the Kings last night. And then there was a video that was shown on the big board, and it also was all over social media last night where the Bucks mascot, what is the name of the Bucks mascot? Bango.
Yes.
So Bango walks over to a light switch. If you're wondering, because you can't see in the back of your head, Verlad hates the name Bango. He just made a face. He was disgusted by the mascot name.
There's a story behind it.
We don't need it.
I'm sure it's fantastic.
We'll get to it sometime, maybe never. So Bango flips the light switch,
yes,
and there's a green beam shooting into the sky from Pfizer V Forum or whatever they call that place. Fiserv.
I don't care. It's a sponsor. Who cares?
So the green beam into the sky, and some Kings fans were not pleased about this. Ramie.
Upset.
You loved it though.
I mean, I loved it, and people are going to say, "Oh, of course you loved it, Milwaukee guy." Has nothing to do with that. I just love pettiness. I love trolling. And when you combine the two into petty trolling, it's one of my favorite things. And sports ain't that serious, man. The Kings should have fired back, or if they get the best of them when the Bucks come to town in March, Kings social media should have something in their back pocket to clap back at the Kings. One of my favorite things about the innovation of social media is there's a lot of awful things about it too. But when team accounts go back and forth trolling each other on Twitter and it gets real, and it gets petty, I love it. I love it. I enjoyed what I saw last night. It has nothing to do with any Milwaukee ties or loyalties that I might have.
That's all just fun and games.
Exactly. It's a game. What are we getting upset about, people?
Can't take it too seriously.
Right.
As far as the silver linings, again, I'm done with the moral victories, but there were a couple of things that you wanted to bring up last night that stood out to you that were good.
Well, Domas continues to dominate.
Excellent.
And last night,
excellent.
Last night he did a lot of that work in the paint against one of the tougher teams in the paint when you talk about Giannis down there, Brook Lopez down there, even Drew Holiday, who has more impact in the paint than probably any point guard in this league. He still showed up and put up a damn near a triple-double. But the biggest silver lining to me last night, Nick, and he's been bouncing back for the last 2 or 3 games. But last night, for the first time in a while, I think we saw Keegan Murray. Remember how impressed we were with his composure and his knack for making the big shots that either they were like shots to win a game like he did in the summer league, or just shots that sort of triggered momentum or sparked momentum for his team in big spots. Last night, ripped the ball out of Giannis's hands and started a fast break. Had that big 3 in the third quarter that started a little Kings run, and then had that big dunk in the fourth quarter that sparked a Kings run. That's what I've been looking for from him. The line has looked better for the last 3 or 4 games, but those types of plays for this team is what I've been looking for from him. And I think we saw it. We saw a little bit of a turning point, I think, for Keegan Murray last night, even though it was a loss.
Certainly Keegan looks like he's starting to find his rhythm again, which is fantastic. And it's because he's doing the other things. I talked about Keegan last week while you were out, Ramie, and I had said at the time, he's got to do some other things on the floor to get himself going, because this standing around the 3-point line ain't working right now, right? And we've seen that. He has started to cut a little bit more, getting to the basket, got to the free throw line a handful of times against the Clippers last weekend. And you can see some of these plays, and Ramie just mentioned a couple of them. It's other things that Keegan is now doing to get himself going. And that, to me, tells me message received. He's been much better the last 3 or 4 games, which I think is a fantastic development. I'd also point out one play last night. There were multiple guys that hit the floor. Loose ball. 2-3 guys get on the floor, including Fox, who, again, is not healthy right now. Diving on the floor for the loose ball. Kings come up with it. When we talk about culture and we talk about building winning habits and doing things the right way, it's one play, but to me, that is significant, and it really personifies what we talk about when we talk about culture.
Yeah, and I think that's the Mike Brown effect that we've been talking about all season. And I think the longer the season goes on, the more that stuff sort of sets in, and you see it become kind of the fabric and the identity of this team.
Sac State football hosting a playoff game tomorrow night. That's right, tomorrow night, 7:30. Tickets just $10. You want to go to hornetsports.com. A playoff game tomorrow night for Sac State. Hornetsports.com is where you can get those tickets. And the kickoff is at 7:30. Can the Raiders make it 4 straight? And can they make a run? That's next.
Sacktown Sports. Headlines. Sacramento has a new tag team in the afternoons.
You're talking to the original tag team of ugly pukes here.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sacktown Sports 1140.
All right, if you're a fantasy football owner, KC Joyner will join us in about 15 minutes. And, of course, if you're a fantasy football owner that's made the playoffs, you might have some questions about your team this week.
Does your league start playoffs this week or next week?
Honestly, I don't even know.
That far out of it, huh?
Next week.
No, I mean I was in second place the last time I checked. But I co-own the team with a friend because I live thousands of miles away.
Right.
And so I haven't had much time for anything, Ramie, the last few weeks. So
we moved the playoffs back.
We're around the playoff time. 14, 15, week 14, week 15.
I think some leagues start this week. We pushed it back a week last year with the expansion of the schedule.
It also depends on how many teams make the playoffs in your league. Anyway, right. KC Joyner will join us in about 10, 15 minutes. So if you have any fantasy football questions this week, don't forget to plop them into the YouTube chat spot there, youtube.com, Sacktown Sports 1140. And also don't forget to give us a thumbs up and like us. Again, little effort from you guys and gals listening and watching means an awful lot to us, because the more likes that we get, the more YouTube will actually throw our content out there for people to watch, because that's how it works. So, again, thanks to everybody, youtube.com, Sacktown Sports 1140. Before we get to KC in just over 10 minutes, though, let's talk about the Raiders, Ramie. Obviously, they play tonight. You will hear the pregame right here at 4:45, and then the game itself. Their chance to win the fourth straight on their schedule here. Josh Jacobs is likely going to play. I would imagine he's going to play. Of course, you have the fun Jalen Ramsey, Devontae Adams matchup when they do match up. Here was Devontae this week talking about that battle between two of the top players at their positions.
Absolutely. I mean, it never ends up panning out. We've played against each other a couple of times. It never ends up panning out like the heavyweight bout everybody, hypes it up to be going into the week, just based off of, the scheme. And, obviously every offense that I've been in, I've moved around a lot, which I can't do anything about, nor can he. He can only, do what the defensive call is. But anytime we do get an opportunity to go one-on-one, it's something that is, it's a fun matchup where you got two guys that are, known to go at it a little bit.
So Ramsey should be out there. Aaron Donald is not going to be out there. He's out of this game. Also, there's an outside shot, and it sounds like it might become a real shot of Baker Mayfield starting this game, or at least playing in this game for the Rams. I mean, he was just picked up off of waivers this week. Here was Sean McVay on Baker and kind of how quickly he might be able to transition to the Rams and get to playing.
Really, it's, getting it, to maximize, all the time that we have to be able to get him up to speed. There are some similarities to, systems that he's run in previous years and at previous places where there's a similar vernacular and verbiage, or he might have called one thing, something, and he's like, oh, okay, this is what I've called it. So, we'll really see. I mean, it's 12 o'clock right now. I mean, literally, he just got here, about 14 hours ago when we ended up starting to meet with him. So it is very early for me to say anything that would, be accurate, because still got, plenty of time to be able to evaluate and see exactly where that leaves us for tomorrow at 5.
Now, the Rams have been trashed this year, probably because I picked them to get back to the Super Bowl. And everybody was loving. Yeah, I did. Everybody was loving the whole bleep them picks thing. Well, because of the bleep them picks thing, right now your top 5 pick is headed to Detroit for in that Jared Goff trade. Of course, they won the Super Bowl, so they would take that swap. But this hurts. I mean, you have a top 5 pick. Your team's playing like trash. You probably will end up in the top 5 this year, and you won't have the pick. Detroit will have the pick. The Raiders are feeling very good about themselves. How do you feel about tonight's game, Ramie?
I know I've said this before, and it's been sarcastic every time. This is the game, dude. This is the game where, for me, where I go, okay, now they're back in it. And my logic for this is maybe kind of stupid, Nick, but see if you can follow. If they're as bad as we thought they were earlier in the season, even if it's the Rams and everything that you described on the other side of the field, teams as bad as we thought the Raiders were earlier in the season, you don't string together 4 straight wins.
Yeah.
Like, if they're as bad as we thought they were, they lose tonight almost just on the fact that they're due for a loss. And I'll take it one step further. When we talk about, because the talent has been there the whole time. That's why we picked them to win 10 games. And that's why we were perplexed at how bad they looked earlier in the season and the fact that they couldn't figure out ways to win football games. What's been the problem has been the mindset of this football team at times. And you could look at this as a trap game because of all the things that the Rams are up against that you just listed off. And B, remember after Brock Purdy did what he did on Sunday, and you and I agreed that on some level, he had a bit of an advantage in the element of surprise.
Right.
Brock Purdy. The Raiders don't know what Baker Mayfield looks like playing for Sean McVay. Should that happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something sort of sneaky, scary about this game for the Raiders. And if they win, despite all that, I think I can look at this team legitimately and say what I've been saying sarcastically all season. They are legitimately back in it and have saved their season.
By the way,
so I don't appreciate your tone either.
Vincent Bonsignor says that Baker's getting a ton of reps in the pregame for the Rams, and he wonders, is he going to start against the Raiders?
Warm up.
Look, they can make a run. It'll be very tough. I think, like, mathematically they have less than like a 10% chance of getting there or whatever the case may be. But they can get there. They've got talent. Talent has never been the question with this team. Defensively, in the secondary, you got question marks, of course, and linebacker has gone through injuries and retirements, but they have talent. And the most important thing for them is to get healthy. Hobbs is now back to help your secondary. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller should be coming back right around the corner. Waller said he expects and anticipates to be back after tonight's game. You have a fantastic run game with Josh Jacobs, which is always vital late in the season when you get into the playoffs and when you're battling for the playoffs to wear teams down. The AFC is wide open. I mean, the Chargers and the Patriots right now are still in the hunt to get to the playoffs. And you've got a bunch of other teams that are just like the Jets at 7-5. Are they wowing you? I don't think so. I mean, the AFC South is pretty much a disaster. The Ravens now don't have Lamar Jackson, so they're 8-4, but they might lose Jackson for as many as 3 weeks. The Broncos are out of it. Forget them. Patriots certainly don't scare you. Like, you have a legitimate shot if you can make a run here to get in. And, their schedule's tough. Rams, you would think that they should be able to take care of business tonight against the Rams, and they have a home game against the Patriots with an extra long, set of time to gain on the Patriots because the Patriots play on Monday night against Arizona. Mm-hmm. So you're playing Thursday night. Patriots are playing Monday night. So you've got a big window there to kind of gain an edge. Pittsburgh's not great. We thought San Francisco would be really tough, but, now who knows what Brock Purdy. Kansas City, Chris brought this up earlier in the week to us. Kansas City's the last week of the season. Are they already in? Or is their seed already figured out? If so, are they going to play everybody? How much are they going to play? So when you looked at that schedule going back a couple weeks ago, it seemed like it was going to be much more difficult. But the Rams are hurt without Stafford. Might start Mayfield. The Patriots are lost offensively, trying to find themselves. The Steelers have not been great all year. The Niners now have their third quarterback playing. In Kansas City, you got them in the last week. So, yeah. I mean, again, it'll be tough. But if you ask me, can they do it? Absolutely. All right, if you got fantasy football questions, again, make sure you plop them into the YouTube channel. That chat right there, youtube.com, Sacktown Sports 1140. You can also text us at 916-339-1140. You can call us at 1-800-920-1140. Fantasy football expert KC Joyner joins us next. Yes, it is playoff time for some of you fantasy football owners out there. My team has been ravaged by injury. I had Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert.
Oof.
Both get hurt the same week.
Ouch.
I pick up Dawson Knox. Knox got banged up against the Patriots last week. Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson, my two quarterbacks in a two-quarterback league. Herbert hurt earlier in the year, playing without Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Now Lamar Jackson's hurt. Ridiculous.
None of this is good for you.
No. Yeah, Anyway, enough of my issues. KC Joyner, footballscientist.com.
If you're wondering.
Good. And the Athletic, it's because you ask 100 questions to KC every week. KC, of course, is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. KC, as always, we appreciate your time. Don't forget that KC will be running the blog at The Athletic during Thursday Night Football tonight. Let's start at YouTube. Tony Dogs has a question for you, KC. And he says this is a serious question. Brock Purdy or Tom Brady?
Well, it should be a serious question in a way. Purdy he showed something that he could do last weekend, and Brady's got a very tough matchup. I had trouble putting together Purdy's grades in my system this week because I just didn't know where to put a lot of it. Like, okay, how much rushing ability should I give this guy and such? So I think Brady's probably the candidate because he's still a solid floor candidate. But if I was in a type of league and I might have had to play for outside, I can make a case for Purdy. I'd still probably start Brady. I can make a case.
If you have Debo or Kittle or McCaffrey, any of these big offensive weapons on the 49ers, how much does Brock Purdy being the quarterback change the outlook for those guys?
I did lower part of the factors that go into my player grades every week is quarterback quality, and so I did lower it down there. With Kittle, the tight end position is so bad. He's still, even though he's been done terrible of late, he's still 10th on the board. So he's still a viable TE1. Debo, I'm probably putting because he's got some, maybe has some rushing ability and such. Got a tough matchup. I've got him right around the border of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and McCaffrey. McCaffrey's number 1 on my board this week. I think they're going to funnel things through him.
Got a text here. Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift?
It probably depends if you're in a PPR league because the Lions last week finally got Williams and Swift. With Swift healthy, they could finally run the offense they want to run, which is give a lot of carries to Swift between the 20s, but still give some to Williams. Give Williams mostly the goal line carries, and let Swift be the pass catcher back. So in a PPR, if there's a half full PPR, I would go Swift. If it's in a non-PPR, I'm going Williams.
KC Joyner is with us here from the footballscientist.com site that he runs, also The Athletic. He'll be running the Thursday Night Football blog tonight for The Athletic. Don't forget to check out, again, footballscientist.com. Cattles and Ramie here on a Thursday. Back to YouTube, KC. Deshaun Watson versus the Bengals after last week. Tim E. is wondering, what should we expect from Watson?
He was another player who was really tough to grade this week. I did significantly lower his grades, and he's got I do color grade ratings where blue is a lead and green is a solid starter and yellow is a guy you probably don't want in your lineup, and he has some yellow grades. But the Bengals, they give him out of 100 matchup points for passing or her passing matchup. Watson gets 86 matchup points, and there's a chance it turns into a high-scoring game, and he ran the ball last week. So I've got him number 9 on my quarterback board this week, so I think there's enough there to justify putting him on lineups. There's a lot of other quarterbacks who are probably better.
Ramie in Midtown says, humble brag, I have the 1 seed. I need to win to hang on to it. Should I start Trevor Lawrence or Ryan Tannehill?
I actually think that the Jaguars will pull off the upset, and the Titans have a very bad secondary. Their secondary has been at 84 matchup points for Lawrence in the passing game, and they're going to invite you to pass the ball. And as we saw last week, if you have a good passing attack, and Jacksonville actually has a pretty underrated attack. I think Zay Jones will do a lot better because he had 3 drops last week. He only had 1 coming into the game. If he does better and the rest of the offense does well, I think Lawrence has a lot of upside there. So I'd like him over Tannehill.
Here's one on the text line. I've got a lineup of below average tight ends: Knox, Higbee, or Moreau for the playoff run.
Knox has done terrible, and I think he's going to have a bad game this week, so I don't like him this week. I probably like Moreau the most out of that, but that's something I guess that depends on when we go with Hunter Renfroe coming back. I probably like Morel right now, but that could be a week-to-week thing. If I would suggest, if you can keep two of them on your roster, I would suggest keeping two and playing according to matchup, because I don't think any one of those three is going to be head and shoulders over the rest of the season.
Yeah, tight end stinks. Casey Joyner is with us. He's on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Casey, back to the text line. Lamar Jackson, if he was dropped in your league, is he worth stashing just in case he's ready to go week 16 or 17?
Yeah, absolutely, because he has a PCL injury, and what they're saying, at least all the injury experts, quote unquote, are saying is that's a 1 to 3 week injury. And you read Harbaugh's statements, and Harbaugh's like, he probably won't go this week. He's got a better chance to go next week, and that sounds like, okay, so maybe he's out for a week or two. On my charts, I only projected him to be out for 2 weeks, which kind of split the difference. So looking at that going, all right, if he's going to only be out for a couple of weeks and could come back and be reasonably healthy for the semifinal and final rounds in a playoff league or in a fantasy league, yeah, I definitely want him on my roster if I could.
Najee Harris or Jerick McKinnon?
I don't think McKinnon's going to quite get enough touches, and Harris is still getting plenty of volume there. He's a 10 to 15 point player, but he has that. That's his floor. He may not have a big ceiling anymore, but he's got that floor, and they do funnel a lot of things through him. So I'm still probably going Harris this week.
Casey Joyner with us. Casey, got a question for you about just philosophy come playoff time for some of the owners out there. Do you usually roll with what got you there, or are you not married to anybody and it should be matchups specific?
When it comes to the regular season, in most seasons, I adjusted it a bit this year, but in most seasons I say, okay, weeks 1 through 14, you're going to play, you want to play percentage players, because over the course of 14 weeks, the percentages will play out, and you're trying to win the percentage of games. When it comes to playoffs, I'm swinging for the fences. I'm going for I mentioned those blue-rated players. If you got a blue-rated player, you got a green-rated upside player, you got people who can give you big points, you've got to do that, because you're facing teams, you're automatically going to be facing teams that are probably going to be high-scoring teams. So you kind of have to shoot for the moon in there. So yeah, if I've got a tie-breaking option between two players, I'm not playing it safe once the playoffs roll around.
Noah from West Sac texts in, Mike Williams or Gabe Davis or Zay Jones?
I would probably Gabe Davis, I don't like that matchup against the Jets at all. He's got a huge floor to him, and I like Zay Jones a lot this week. I think last week was a total anomaly, and I think the Jaguars will say, hey, look, we know you dropped 3 passes. You only dropped 1 coming into that week, and if he caught those 3 passes, he would have had a solid week last week instead of the dud he had. I think they're going to funnel things through him a lot. I like Jones's upside. I go with him.
Last one for you this week, Casey. Another text. What about Jeff Wilson after that debacle last week? Keep him or drop him?
Keep him. Get him in your lineup this week. The Chargers have given up 150-plus rushing yards. I think it's in either 5 or 6 straight games. They're terrible against the run. They're going to want to get Wilson get back in there. I think he could be 75 to 100 yards on the ground this week, and I want him in as a flex at the very least.
Casey, we appreciate you, man, as always. Thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds like a plan.
There goes Casey Joyner, footballscientist.com, The Athletic. He will be running the blog tonight during Thursday Night Football for The Athletic. And, of course, he was on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Casey, with some great stuff there. I'm seeing reports on Twitter that apparently Baker Mayfield took all the reps in the pregame.
Oh.
So it looks like
I just saw that now, too.
I mean, Wolford is active. It looks like the Rams have all 3 quarterbacks active tonight. So we'll see what happens. But Mayfield took all of the reps in the pregame, and that would lead you to believe that he would be starting tonight. All right, coming up, very special guest we have. Jordy Fernandez, associate head coach of the Kings, will join us next. We'll talk about De'Aaron Fox, the injury, how the team decides to play him or not, and a whole lot more. Again, Jordy Fernandez coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie. Cattles and Ramie. Sacktown Sports 1140.
Head coach Jordy Fernandez on this Thursday. Of course, coach is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Coach, De'Aaron Fox spoke with Jason Anderson last night of the Sacramento Bee, said he's dealing with a foot bruise, says it's pain tolerance and management. I just wanted to ask you as a coach, what's the communication process like between the staff and the player when an injury like this happens? Like, how much is it in the player's hands whether or not he plays?
Well, you know the NBA, right? So everybody plays with bumps and bruises. We're not doctors. We trust our medical staff. We trust our players. So if the case is that if he needs rest, we'll do what's best for him, but also what's best for the team. So, like the number one thing is right now we haven't been told is an injury that we should worry about. And as I said, we'll do whatever it takes for him to be 100%.
Is De'Aaron one of those guys, and whether it's practice or his minutes during games, where he wants to go full go regardless of whatever is going on with him physically?
Correct. So he's done it from the beginning, the whole summer. Actually, he's been working really, really hard. And that's the reason why he started the season the way he did, right? Like being our main offensive power, played on both ends of the floor. His speed, he really obviously needs his foot, right? So, like you said, he's not going to go 50%. He wants to go full go. So that's the reason, Ryan, he's debating with all this situation.
Jordy Fernandez is with us here on Cattles and Ramie, Sacktown Sports. Coach, one more about De'Aaron. Has the staff discussed maybe sitting him down? Have you guys been close to sitting him down at any point over the last couple of weeks?
Well, that would be more a question for Coach Brown. But once again, our number one rule here is we'll do what's best for the team, and we'll do what's best for De'Aaron Fox for him to stay healthy. And as you know, 82 games come really fast. There's always bumps, bruises in this league. And sometimes if you have to take a little bit of rest to go back to 100%, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Let's talk about something more positive. And there's a lot positive to talk about when it comes to the Kings. And last night I thought was really, and he's been on the uptick for a minute, but a really good night for Keegan Murray in terms of the types of plays that he made out there, ripping the ball out of Giannis's hands, a three and a dunk, both of which really sparked the momentum for you guys in runs that you made. Did you feel like Keegan Murray, either last night or recently over the last few games, has been breaking through a wall after a slow start?
Yeah, I think he's learning the league. I think he's every game he plays, he's more comfortable on both ends of the floor. He's cutting, being in the right spot, but also being ready to shoot. Like yesterday, he was pretty efficient. He was 3 for 6 from three, scored 15 points, rebounded the ball, I think, fairly well. We did it as a team, but he always helps with his length. So Keegan has been great. As you know, as a rookie, he's really young. He'll have some up and downs, but the kid works. The kid is a pro, so he is a big part of our future.
Associate head coach of the Kings, Jordy Fernandez, is with us on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Speaking of the game last night, Coach Brown said in the postgame that he felt like Milwaukee dictated how the game was played. What were some things that you thought you guys could have done better to not allow that to happen?
Our physicality from the beginning of the game, I think Drew Holiday was too comfortable. Obviously, we know that Giannis is Giannis, but Drew, he had an easy plays to start the game, and then he scored 31 on us. Obviously, physicality also means rebounding. We didn't box out. They grabbed 17 offensive rebounds for 25 points, so we were not good enough finishing possessions, and that cost us the game.
Was the pace of the game? It seemed like it was more the Bucks' pace than it was the Kings' pace in last night's game. Did you feel like that was part of that physicality that dictated that?
I think they're the number one defense in the NBA. What they do is they defend the rim and they defend the three. we started being very decisive and being ready to shoot. And actually, every time we touched the paint, we were open and we let it fly and the ball went in. At times, we had 0 pass, 1 pass possessions, and that's never a good sign. So it's just good experience for our guys to play against this type of team, and we have to learn from it. We play well at times, but we were not good enough, and you can tell they are a championship contender.
Kings associate head coach Jordy Fernandez with us here, Cattles and Ramie, Sacktown Sports. Coach, nobody can really shut down Giannis, right? I mean, he's just too good. But how do you try to limit him? And do you think you guys did at least a decent job of doing that before the fourth quarter when he really took over?
I think we did a good job loading to him. Obviously, you can get better. A lot of our guys are young, so they haven't experienced that yet, and they don't know what it is to have that train coming at you full speed. Obviously, things that we could improve with packing the paint a little bit more and making him pass. And also when he was ducking our guys in transition, just being physical and meeting him early without the ball. So there's room to improve. I think we were okay, but we could have been better.
It probably took a step back last night, but for a stretch there, and the defensive efficiency rankings would show it too, the defense was improving and on an uptick for the Kings. What do you think was behind that? Was that you guys changing some things around, or was that guys finally grasping and coming together with what Coach Brown and the rest of you have been preaching?
Yeah, I think it's been trusting the process. We've been really good at limiting the three and rebounding, but we struggle at defending the three when teams were shooting. That percentage was really high. As you know, in the NBA, the number of threes also matters.
Right.
And we also struggle at guarding the rim. And in the last 2 games, our rim protection was really good. Guys have been buying into leading with their chest, defending without fouling, go with rule of verticality. And I think you can see the results. It was for a couple of games. Obviously, yesterday was not the same story, but I think we're taking steps towards the right direction.
Jordy Fernandez with us. Just a couple more for you, Coach. Domas showing off some range. I know DC's been working with him in his shot. He looked more comfortable last night from mid-range, Coach. Is the staff, are you guys okay with him taking as many of those as he'd like, or do you want him at times to make sure teams feel his presence in the paint?
I think there can be a happy medium right there.
Yeah.
Domas is great in the paint. He's very physical, and he's a great playmaker. And now you add that he's shooting with confidence. Everything DC's done with him has been amazing. And now the shots are going in. So he's going to be really hard to guard. Like if he makes a couple of shots and then he has the impact that he has in the paint. So I think he's been huge for us. He's a pro and he always produces. So we're very happy with Domas.
Do you continue to be surprised by Malik Monk? Because I continue to be surprised by Malik. He started off so hot. You almost expect him to come back down to earth a little bit, and that just hasn't happened yet.
Nah, Malik is electrifying. That's what he does. He brings that energy from the bench, and he's ready to go. As you know, we think he should be the 6th man of the year. So. We believe he's going to continue to do that, and he's going to be huge for the Kings.
Coach Jordy Fernandez with us. Coach, there was a possession last night that really stood out to me. Multiple guys hit the floor, including De'Aaron Fox with the injury issues and the way he's been feeling. Loose ball, multiple guys hit the deck, try to grab that ball. You come up with it. Does that kind of possession tell you as a coach that the culture you're trying to set is headed in the right direction?
I mean, I hope so. What you described is a team that fights and competes. And I think we've been doing that. We can be better and we will get better. But I think we're in the right direction, as I said before. And possessions like that are, they tell you. And whether you win or you lose, when you fight, you can live with it.
I know what the end result was, and the last half of the fourth quarter wasn't pretty, and probably for 4 quarters. It wasn't what Coach Brown and the rest of the staff necessarily wants, especially defensively. But I thought for 3.5 quarters last night, the Kings went toe-to-toe with, as you said, clearly a championship contender. Are there any moral victories in this game, or is a loss, Coach?
No, the victory here is we watch film, we practice, we own it, we learn from it, we work at it, and now tomorrow there's another one coming, right? It's the beauty of the NBA.
Last one for you, Jordy. I have to ask you, how do you feel about the beam? Are you a fan of lighting the beam?
I am a fan because, everybody seems so excited. At the beginning, I didn't even know what a beam was. English is not my number one language. But I am very excited with the beam. It's something unique. I think something that brings all the Kings fans and players together, and we feel like we all are building this. So the beam is amazing.
Coach, good luck, good health during this trip. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there goes Associate Head Coach Jordy Fernandez. Of course, he was on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. I want to circle back to a couple of things that Coach had to say to us. But first, before we do that, an NFL owner gets dragged. More on that with Jeff Howe coming up in 90 seconds.
The only place you'll find Keegan Murray is Sacktown Sports.
He's got the triple. Keegan Murray with his fifth.
Check out Prestige for versatile. Yeah, let me see. What was I trying to say? Am I all right, guys?
You all right?
I'm okay. What I wanted to say was check Prestige Grills for versatile grilling. There's that word, for every delicious occasion, especially now as we get closer to Christmas. Cook your entire Christmas meal on a Napoleon gas grill. In the Prestige line of outdoor cookers, they're from California Backyard. You can go check them out right now at any of the 4 nearby California Backyard locations. Always the best in backyard living. See California Backyard's huge selection of Napoleon grills and accessories today. You can also check them out online at Napoleon.com.
With the Athletics NFL insider, Jeff Howe.
Now, usually on Tuesdays at this time, we are joined by friend Jeff Howe of The Athletic, but Jeff had a charity function because he's a good guy. Ramie and I don't have charity functions. You notice that?
No.
Well, I don't think Ramie believes in charity.
No, it's just that having me involved. It's not helping.
Not a good
charity.
idea.
Right, exactly.
Well, our guy Jeff Howe had some obligations earlier in the week, but he's good enough to join us on this Thursday to talk some football. He's on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And fortunately for us, we did change Jeff's schedule because this big congressional inquiry, Jeff, into Daniel Snyder finished, and the report was released earlier today. Reading through the report, Jeff, what was the main takeaway that you had from it?
I think it confirmed a lot of issues that people believed about Dan Snyder and the way that he's run that Washington organization for quite a while right now. I mean, to allege that he suppressed complaints and workplace misconduct and all the things of the like, and under that umbrella, I mean, that's a terrible look for a leader of any organization, let alone one that's as public as the Washington Commanders.
For me, and honestly, Jeff, I couldn't read the whole thing. I just didn't have the time or the attention span for it. But my main takeaway was I knew Daniel Snyder was terrible, but the NFL was just letting him be terrible all this time. It seems like sometimes helping him be terrible at what he does.
Well, I think if as me and Nick go, back to Deflategate and a lot of things that have happened with Patriots, at this point, you aren't skeptical about an NFL investigation. I think that's what the league is sort of, they deserve that reputation of outsiders like us being skeptical and wondering where their interests lie. And if they are culpable of it too, then, it sounds like the Congress has no problems going after the league as a whole.
Jeff Howe is with us. He's from The Athletic, NFL insider. Jeff joins us usually on Tuesdays at this time. He's joining us today instead. Let's wrap this thing up with Snyder. I got one more question for you, Jeff. Is there any way that you can see him being owner of the Commanders 6 months, a year from now?
If the sales drags out, if the paperwork takes a while to file. I think they've already kind of taken those steps, kind of searching for, or putting the group together in order to sell the team. And I think we all know why they've taken those steps. That stuff is coming to light more and more as the weeks go by. So, if they don't voluntarily sell the organization, I think I would be shocked if there wasn't some more pressure coming from the league.
Is it as crazy as it sounds that Baker Mayfield may start, or at the very least see a significant amount of playing time 2 days after he signed with the Rams?
Yes, it is. It is crazy. Just because, you can't even put Tom Brady in a situation like this and expect him to be successful. But it's just a matter of need. John Wolford has the neck injury. The Rams weren't sure that he was going to be, how active he was going to be able to be, or if he was going to be active. He was basically a game time decision, seeing how that neck felt. And then we'll see what happens. This is a guy who has had some injuries over the course of his career. He takes an early hit, all of a sudden it could be Baker Mayfield's offense. And if this was a team that was, still in the running or even 500 or something like that, maybe you go with Bryce Perkins. But the reason, the upshot, I think, of bringing in Baker Mayfield is trying to evaluate him over the next 5 weeks, just to see if maybe he's in their plans as a potential backup / competition type of player going into next season. So, hey, throw him out there and see what's going on. Got there late Tuesday night. Unrealistic to think that he's going to know much of the playbook or much of the offense, really. It's going to be a pared down system if he does take the field. But, good first impressions from what I understand out there.
Jeff Howe is with us. He's from The Athletic, of course. Like everybody who joins us is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Another big news story today out of the NFL, Jeff, is Marcus Mariota. He's out as Atlanta's QB1. Desmond Ridder will take over. Does Ridder have a shot to win this gig for 2023?
Yeah, I think so, because this is that was, from what I understand, their preferred quarterback going into the draft. So they've liked him for quite a while. Just going into the season, Arthur Smith wanted to see what the competition was going to look like. And this was really always, Marcus Mariota was going to be the starter unless Desmond Ridder got to a point where it was clear that he was the better player. Now, I don't know what it looks like in practice, whether it's gotten to that point or if they've just decided they need to shake things up, because strangely enough, they are still sort of in it in the NFC South. So, I don't think this is, I do think that there is some merit based on this decision, and we'll see what Ridder's able to do. They're not a great team, but there are some pieces on that offense. Arthur Smith does know how to coach offense. So I'm really interested to see what they look like under Ridder.
Are we any closer to knowing where Odell Beckham Jr. will land, and wherever that is, when he'll be able to help that team?
Well, I thought Micah Parsons' comments that blew up earlier this week were really significant, that Odell told him that he was going to be cleared in about 5 weeks. Before he started this round of visits, people were pretty skeptical that it was going to be before December. Well, I guess at this point, the timetable is what it is. But earlier in the season is what I'm saying. The very, very, very earliest they thought that he could be cleared was November. But even if he was cleared November, did that mean that how soon could he start playing games? What does that clearance level look like? You guys are looking at it with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Mm-hmm. There was that 7-week timeline, but 7 weeks doesn't necessarily mean that you can start playing in 7 weeks. So there are all these tiers to how quickly guys can come back from these certain injuries. If Odell is coming in, I think you're hard pressed to think that he's going to be a valuable contributor anytime before the playoffs.
Jeff,
in terms of the decision, though, I've been trying to find out. I don't think anything really has been relayed to these teams that he is prepared to make a decision on an imminent basis.
Jeff Howe from The Athletic joining us here, Cattles and Ramie on this Thursday. Jeff, will Bill Belichick address the offensive staff after this season is over, or is he too married to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge?
I would be stunned if there isn't some sort of shakeup. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes from ownership. And that's just speculation here on my part. But, I go back to March at the owners' meetings when Robert Kraft was very intentional in saying that he wasn't happy that the Patriots hadn't won a playoff game in 3 years. And, when Robert Kraft makes a statement in March at these meetings, there's always something behind it. So the Patriots are very unlikely to end that playoff drought this season, which means Kraft is going to be another year angrier or more frustrated, however you want to put it. And he has to have, because the offense didn't work and it's been way too inconsistent. You could argue whether or not Mac Jones has regressed or the people around him have failed him. Either way, that's a conversation that nobody thought that the Patriots should be having, let's say 9 months ago. So I think Kraft has to come in and say, find an offensive coordinator with actual offensive coordinator experience.
You brought up Jimmy G and the report that he doesn't need surgery and could at some point come back. Kyle Shanahan clarified that yesterday, said it's a way outside chance that happens. Let's say the way outside chance comes to fruition. I'd assume Brock Purdy did something good to get the 49ers to the divisional or the championship round. You just throw Jimmy G back in there after a 7-8 week layoff?
Well, if it's, I'll go with I'm not comparing the two situations. I'm just going to go with the extreme example. Tom Brady in 2001. You usually don't lose your job based off injury, but you're right. If Brock Purdy gets these guys flying down the stretch, that would be a really hard decision for Shanahan to make. And if Garoppolo is perfectly healthy but the offense is running fluidly, with how much talent is around him offensively and defensively, this is a team that has, if it was more of a sure thing at quarterback, a week ago when we're talking about Garoppolo being a quarterback, this is a team that is good enough to win the Super Bowl. So you want to make sure you maximize that opportunity no matter how you can. And if Brock Purdy is the answer, it's not a crazy thing to think about. But if they are, let's say they go 3-2 over the next few weeks, the offense is fairly inconsistent, it's laborious, or you get a situation where you can tell, you get a game, one of those losses, you're down by 14 points, and all of a sudden you're scraping and clawing just to get yards, and Purdy is a guy that you can't rally from a multi-score deficit on, then yeah, it's a whole lot easier to just go to Garoppolo, who I think is going to do everything in his power. He did it this offseason. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure that he can get himself back on the field. I know he's dealt with a number of injuries over his career. That doesn't mean that he's not a tough guy. This is somebody who's going to want to be out there if he can.
His name's Jeff Howe. He's a gentleman. He's a scholar. He's a darn good reporter. Jeff, as always, man, we appreciate you. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Appreciate you guys being flexible with me this week. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you. There goes Jeff Howe on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. All right, I want to circle back to the interview we just had with Jordy Fernandez before we brought Jeff on. He said a couple of things that stood out to us. Thoughts on Keegan Murray, thoughts on Domas, and more. We'll talk about that coming up next. Dude, just not when that song comes on.
They were playing Run Rudolph Run when I went to the bathroom.
Classic.
Great song.
Classic.
Great song.
Before we say goodbye for the holidays, like, we absolutely have to go through a little bit of a run of Christmas music and play it and talk about some of the best.
I'm down.
Has to. Has to happen. I've got my own playlist and all that when it comes to Christmas. I'm very, very specific about my Christmas songs.
I've got a movie playlist that I have to watch.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation has to be watched every Christmas for me. Every Christmas.
Forgot about that one.
Bleepers full. I got to watch it every year. If I don't, I feel like I've lost something.
That's
great.
Scrooge is a very good one.
Scrooge is great.
And I know Christmas Story, people can't stand it now because it's on like TBS or whatever all the time. Still, to me, a classic.
Never liked it. Never got into it.
Love that movie.
Never
Love that
got
movie.
into it. I'm with you.
How dare you? Hold on. I just got outvoted 3-1 on a Christmas
You're alone
Story.
on this. Yeah.
No, see, this is what happens when TBS and all this, that's what happens. When that thing was like, nobody was watching it. It was kind of like an underground movie. When I was growing up, it was an underground movie. Everybody loved it. And now, because it's 24 hours full of, TBS, TNT, whatever station it is that plays it, people are tired of it and they poke holes in it. That is awesome.
I don't know what the word is, but it's too something for me.
Too great? Is it too great for you, Ramie? Is that the problem?
My finger on it. There's
too awesome.
No, it's too. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Too spectacular.
No, none of those things.
Too funny.
None of those things. Bland. There it is. There it is.
Get out
That's
of
the
my
word that I'm
face
looking
with
for.
that. Will
The
you
only good
stop
part.
it?
The only good part is when he gets his tongue stuck to the pole. That's the only good part of that movie. Well, when he beats up the bully, that was pretty good too.
Movie's great.
Other than that, it's
Movie's great.
Not good.
Are you watching part 2?
Fragile.
Yeah, they made a part 2.
There's like a part 2 coming out, or he is out
I'm
or
not
something,
watching
right?
part 2. I'm not watching
See, I would have to. If I was a fan of the movie, I'd have to. Like, they made a new Home Alone last year. I love Home Alone. So I went and watched the new Home Alone.
Was Macaulay Culkin in it?
No.
Yeah, I'm not with you.
No, I'm with you. I'm not on. Yeah, Ramie, you're by yourself.
It was good.
You're outvoted 3-1 on that
After
one.
part 2, I was done.
I'm
Once
going
they
to go ahead
went
and say it was good. The best Christmas movie and the most underrated Christmas movie, The Night Before with Seth Rogen.
Good.
Great movie.
I'm still a Muppets Christmas Carol guy.
I'm disgusted at all of you. Christmas
Because we
Story.
don't like A Christmas Story?
I'm disgusted. Anyway.
Honestly, I kind of hate it. I'm going to be real. I kind of hate it.
All right. Well, I don't like you. So let's get to Jordy Fernandez.
I hate you.
Associate head coach of the Kings. He joined us earlier in the hour. Couple things we want to talk about. First of all, Keegan getting his rhythm back. I think it's now been 3-4 straight games where he has looked more like Keegan than what was happening the month prior. And it's stuff that Ramie and I kind of hit on before. I mean, it's nothing that's, rocket science here. He's cutting more. He's getting to the basket more because of those cuts. He's been more just active, right? Mid-range jumpers. He's finding different ways to get offense instead of just running around the three-point line. And now, because of that rhythm kind of coming together, you've now seen his shot get better from three. And last night, I thought he looked the most comfortable from three that he's looked in quite a while. Here was Jordy earlier this hour talking about Keegan and how he's learning the NBA.
Yeah, I think he's learning the league. I think he's every game he plays, he's more comfortable on both ends of the floor. He's cutting, being in the right spot, but also being ready to shoot. Like yesterday, he was pretty efficient. He was 3 for 6 from three, scored 15 points, rebounded the ball, I think, fairly well. We did it as a team, but he always helps with his length. So Keegan has been great. As you know, as a rookie, he's really young. He'll have some up and downs, but the kid works. The kid is a pro, so he is a big part of our future.
Kid has worked. His kid's a pro. Your thoughts on what we've seen from Keegan since really, I think it really started to kick in Saturday against the Clippers.
I thought so too, but and I brought this up in the first hour, Nick. The it's not the numbers, but it's the eye test and watching the game and certain plays, certain moments of a game where he steps up that aren't too big for him. I thought he was maybe not the main reason why. That was probably Domas, and Harrison Barnes had a big night last night too. But he was one of the big reasons why they were able to hang around with the Bucks for 3.5 quarters, despite De'Aaron Fox not being De'Aaron Fox. And some of the big plays that he made, the 3 in the third quarter, the dunk in the fourth quarter, really sparked momentum and started runs for the Kings. And that's the type of stuff that where even when the box score and the line looked good, I was waiting for that to show up a little bit more.
Speaking of De'Aaron Fox, he told Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee last night after the game that he's been struggling with a foot injury. It's been hurting him a lot. He's been trying to fight through it. Here was Jordy talking about doing what's best for the team, doing what's best for Fox.
Our number one rule here is we'll do what's best for the team, and we'll do what's best for De'Aaron Fox for him to stay healthy. And as you know, 82 games come really fast. There's always bumps, bruises in this league. And sometimes if you have to take a little bit of rest to go back to 100%, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and I agree with Jordy, and he's De'Aaron Fox is questionable for tomorrow night's game against Cleveland. We'll see if he plays. I would sit him for a couple of games. Fox told Jason Anderson that, this is the type of injury that can't get worse by playing. I just wonder if it can get better, because he's been dealing with it now for a month, and I thought he was turning a corner against Chicago, and then last night he just had no lift to his shot, and everything was short, and he didn't look healthy.
Yeah, like I said, you would think 4 games in 6 nights, Nick. There's a night of rest coming for De'Aaron Fox in one of these. Maybe he plays tomorrow, and then in the back-to-back next week, they give him one of those
maybe
before the travel day. But at some point here in the next week or so, he's got to have a day off coming.
Speaking of the next week,
yes, sir.
No shows for you. This is your last show until next Thursday, a week from today.
Next Thursday, I'll be back.
We're off a lot. We're off tomorrow. We're off Tuesday. We're off Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm back on Monday. Enjoy all of the Kings basketball coming your way here on Sacktown Sports. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to JJ. Great job as always. Ramie, safe travels.
Thank you, sir.
I'm back on Monday. Till then, Cattles and Ramie, Sacktown Sports.
I'm glad it's night, so the light from the sun would not burn me on my bum when I shoot the moon. High jump the broom like a preemie out the womb. My